Okay, we've got our gas on, and so we're going to get ready to weld, gas weld. I always feel so steampunk when I'm wearing these things. Anyway, got a couple of pieces, and we're going to weld. Let me show you the other things that will be out here for you. One is going to be some welding rod. This is copper coated, but it is steel. Magnetic clip here, and you can see that it sticks to a magnet. So it's steel, even though it looks like it's copper. You want to have a pair of pliers. You won't be doing it, but one of the things that you'll see out here are these little triangular metal things. And that's in case you're trying to do a weld. Let's say I had this piece, and I'm going to try to weld this piece to it, but, well, I can take this magnetic part and set it up there, and now the piece is up, and I can do my welding. I can tack it, make it hold it well enough, and then take this off and finish the weld. We normally would be doing that, but this summer we don't have time. Okay, these two pieces. They'll be ready for you. Just lay them together, but let's light the torch. Okay, what this torch has on it is, and this one's a good one to use, the others just have knobs, but this one has a kind of nice ball valve to show you something kind of nice about it. Full description of this blowpipe is on the other places on the canvas. Green, oxygen, red, fuel, in this case, acetylene. And to light this, you turn this no more than an eighth of a turn, and you take one of the sparkers, create a spark, and you will get a flame. I normally have an exhaust vent, and it will be there when you're using it, but for the demonstration, it makes too much noise. Now you'll notice that I am increasing the amount of oxygen. I'm now up to a quarter of a turn rather than an eighth of a turn. And you can just see the, if I turn it down, you'll see a lot of soot coming off the end. And you can see it here. You want to turn enough oxygen on to where that soot goes away and the flame is feathered. Then we're going to add, and at this point you really need to make sure you have your goggles on, because you're going to slowly add the oxygen. You'll notice in there they got very, very bright. This used to be used for gas lighting and in the theaters. Playhouses. I want you to look at the tip of this. You'll see that there is a blue flame that is coming into the middle of it. And that center blue flame gets smaller and smaller until the middle flame pulls into yet a third blue flame. That's what you want, is just to bring that in. It's called a neutral flame. And you want to, if you go in too far, it's an oxidizing flame. Those descriptions are on canvas. You'll also notice that I'm doing this without gloves. I'm not going to touch anything that's hot, so you can do this part without gloves because it won't give you sunburn. Arc welding is a different matter. Okay, that very tip, where pretend that the tip of that point is a pencil, and you're going to try to draw a circle about the size of a dime on your pieces of metal, half on one side and half on the other. And before you do that, though, you're going to take the very tip ends and melt them together. You might see it getting red hot, and you're going to, when you've been there, get it to the melting point of the steel. These two little pieces will fall together. This is the one spot that I'm going. What I'm doing here is I'm tacking this in. I'm not trying to create anything. I will come back and fix it. But here I have tacked this so that this end of it, that I just did, and I just turned it around, will not separate. One thing that happens with welding like this is as I move down, as you'll see me move down, it will tend to cause the two pieces of metal to split. And by the time you get to the very end, it's pretty far apart. So you want to tack one end. Now we're going to start on the other end. And this is where making sure that we're keeping that neutral flame. You can now kind of preheat the metal. It's a good idea to give it a little bit of extra pump because you're going to be moving this down a little bit. There's going to be some things. That little pop happens when you get in too close, and don't worry, it's perfectly okay. You'll start seeing some changes going blue, and you might see it go different colors, go red. There's some stuff on canvas about the color changes that happen in carbon steel depending upon the temperature. But now I'm going to be, you can see it's getting really red hot here, I hope. And I am trying to create a puddle about the size of a dime, maybe a little smaller than a dime. And I hope everybody knows what a dime is. Half of the dime is on one side of the metal and half is on the other side. And that puddle is going to melt together. And the welding rod should not be thought of as trying to add it to the material. What you want to do with the welding rod is every so often think of it as an eyedropper. All right, now I've got a puddle going. I hope you can see it. It's a little bit smaller than a dime, but I'm walking it up. And because the valley created by the two pieces, you occasionally need to add just a little bit more welding rod. So I'm going to do this kind of awkwardly so you can see it better. But I'm simply dropping a little bit of metal into it. I'm not trying to lay this down and weld it all the way across there. And slowly moving forward, in fact, I'm going to do the rest of it without the welding rod, just because you'll see that it actually isn't such a big deal. But sometimes you do need that extra metal in there. This will create a valley, but that's not such a, well, in technical terms of the welding, it's not a good thing. But I'm just moving it down until I get to the end. I may not get to the end simply because at this point you've seen what the process is, going another 3 or 4 inches. I don't think you'll get much out of going that extra bit. You can come in and see if there's any places that you missed. Maybe you'll see a spot where it is a little low. Get the rod in close so it gets hot, and just drop a little bit in and let it flow in with the rest of it. Don't try to lay a lot of the welding rod down on this piece. Okay, I'm not going to go the whole route. We're done. Oxygen off first when you're stopping. So we're going to close the oxygen. We're going to go back to the acetylene, and we're going to close that. A little bit left, but it blew itself out. Okay. Now, you'll see that it's red hot. That's why we have the pliers out here. And you can see, maybe it's too red to see, but how I did up through here. And that's, yours will probably should look like that, although go the entire route. We do have a bucket over here that you could dip it in, but it's really not good practice to do that. You probably see people do that. Since you're going to be going now to do the arc welding, just leave it here, come back to it. If you're doing the lap joint, it's exactly the same thing. You're just going to lay, I don't have one piece of that size right now. You're just going to lay it, lapping it over, and tack one part, and then do weld both sides. I'll have examples of it out here.